All right, so get ready because we're diving headfirst into Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, it's a
It's
classic.
definitely a classic.
And we're not just going to rehash the plot, we're going to really unpack what makes this story and this place, Sleepy Hollow, so spooky and enduring.
Absolutely. And one thing that always strikes me is
What's that?
Sleepy Hollow itself, it's like its own character.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a backdrop. Irving really makes it this place where the line between dreams and reality is, well, kind of blurry.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and that atmosphere, I think that's what makes it so ripe for these ghost stories.
It's like you could just feel it in the air.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you drop someone like Ichabod Crane into this environment.
Well, let's just say things are bound to get interesting.
Oh, Ichabod, he's such a fascinating character.
He is. He really is.
He's got this mix of shrewdness and, well, I don't want to say stupidity, but maybe gullibility.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but yeah, he's this lanky, awkward schoolmaster, but he's ambitious. He's resourceful, helps out the farmers for extra cash.
Sounds like he's trying to fit in,
He is, but then on the other hand, he's totally obsessed with ghost stories.
especially Cotton Mather, right? History of New England witchcraft,
Oh, that's his favorite. So you can imagine how he fits right into Sleepy Hollow.
where everyone believes in, what was it, trance and visions.
Yeah, trances and visions. They think the whole place is bewitched, maybe by some old German doctor or an Indian chief.
Ah, see, that's what I love about this story. It's just so steeped in folklore.
Oh, absolutely. And Irving really plays that up.
Yeah, how so?
Well, he describes this drowsy, dreamy influence over the valley.
Like you can't quite wake up.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got these strange lights in the sky, shooting stars, meteors.
Whoa, it's like something out of this world.
Exactly. It all adds to this otherworldly kind of spooky feeling.
It's hard to tell what's real and what's not.
It really is. And then, of course, you've got the Headless Horseman,
Ah, yes, the most famous specter of them all.
a Hessian trooper, lost his head to a cannonball in the Revolution. Just imagine hearing that story for the first time.
Oh, it'll give me chills.
Right. This figure riding around at night, searching for his head.
And they say he haunts the church and that one bridge.
Oh, that bridge.
Yeah, it's like those places hold the memory of the war, the unrest.
It's true. It's like this uneasy spirit from a time of great change.
Losing your head, losing your identity. Yeah, I see that.
It makes you think about how ghost stories often reflect the anxieties of their time.
Like they're telling us something deeper about ourselves.
Exactly. And someone like Ichabod, trying to find his place in this world, he'd be extra sensitive to those anxieties.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially with his head full of ghost stories already.
And speaking of Ichabod, Irving doesn't hold back on the descriptions, does he?
He does not.
He paints this picture of, like, a scarecrow.
Uh-huh. Yeah, all lanky and awkward.
With a huge appetite this guy loves to eat. I wonder if he had those same appetites when it came to Katrina Van Tassel.
Ah, Katrina. The beautiful, wealthy daughter of a prosperous farmer.
Ichabod sees her as his ticket to the good life, doesn't he?
Oh, he dreams of land, shingle palaces, all thanks to Katrina.
Classic social climber.
He is, and of course you can't have a story without a little rivalry.
Right. Enter Brom Bones, or Abraham Van Brunt, as he's also known.
Oh, Brom.
They're complete opposites.
They are. Ichabod's all brains and awkward charm, and then you've got Brom. He's all brawn, the strong, silent type.
A man of action.
Exactly, and a bit of a prankster, too. It's brains versus brawn.
Like a slow-motion train wreck waiting to happen.
And their rivalry sets the stage for the Van Tassels' quilting frolic. Oh, that's where things really heat up.
Yeah, those ghost stories come to life there, and, well, we'll save that drama for part 2 of our Sleepy Hollow deep dive.
So that quilting frolic, remember we were talking about that at the Van Tassels?
Oh, yeah, it was like a who's who of Sleepy Hollow.
It was, wasn't it? And all that food, the music, you could just feel the energy,
I can practically smell those pumpkin pies.
Right. But then, as the night goes on and the shadows get longer, the mood starts to shift a bit.
Yeah, it gets a little spookier.
It does. And remember Ichabod, he's already on edge, trying to impress Katrina, compete with Brom.
Yeah, and all those ghost stories floating around.
Exactly. He's primed for a good scare.
Especially that one about the Headless Horseman throwing that guy in the brook, right by the church bridge.
That one always gets me.
I know. And now Ichabod has to ride home all alone in the dark.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I'd be terrified.
Just picture it, okay? It's a dark night. The only sounds are the wind and maybe an owl hooting.
I'm getting chills already.
Right? And every shadow looks like a monster.
Ichabod's mind must be racing.
Oh, absolutely. He's remembering all those ghost stories, and then he has to ride past Major Andre's tree.
That big tulip tree.
Yeah, that one, all gnarled and twisted. And then Wiley Swamp, that's where Major Andre was captured during the war.
It's like these places are soaked in history, and not the happy kind.
Exactly. And for Ichabod, it's all too real. He sees those places, and he thinks about betrayal, death.
It's like the past is coming back to haunt him.
It is, and then, of course, he meets the horseman.
Right. But Irving doesn't tell us who it is at first.
No, he builds the suspense so well.
You're just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. And then, bam, it's the Headless Horseman.
What a reveal.
Isn't it? He's huge, muffled in a cloak, and of course, no head.
Carrying his head on the pommel of his saddle? I mean, come on.
It's pure nightmare fuel.
And what's interesting? We never really know if Ichabod is actually seeing a ghost.
Oh, good point. It could all be in his head.
Right, like his imagination running wild.
Which makes it even scarier in a way.
It does, because it could happen to any of us.
Exactly. And don't forget about Gunpowder, Ichabod's horse.
Oh, yeah. He's usually pretty lazy, isn't he?
He is, but during the chase, he's like a different horse, all frantic and wild.
Right, he can sense the danger, too.
Right, and then the girths on Ichabod's saddle break.
Oh, man, that part.
He's hanging on for dear life, almost falls off.
It's almost funny, but in a terrifying kind of way.
It is, like a little comic relief in the middle of this nightmare.
But it also shows how clumsy Ichabod is, especially compared to the horseman.
It does, doesn't it? He's totally outmatched.
And then they reach the church bridge. Talk about an iconic location.
Oh, that bridge, it's like the heart of the story, where all the fear comes together.
It's like crossing over into another world.
It is, and Ichabod thinks he's almost safe, but then...
The horseman throws his head.
Right at Ichabod.
What a cliffhanger. Okay, so the Headless Horseman throws his head right at Ichabod. And then what?
Well, the next morning, the townspeople, they find Ichabod's hat by the bridge.
His hat.
Yeah, and a smashed pumpkin, but no Ichabod.
Oh.
He's completely vanished, like he was never there.
That's crazy. So what happened to him?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Did-
Did the Headless Horseman actually take him? Or did Ichabod just run away, too scared to come back?
I mean, it's possible, right?
Oh, absolutely. Some people believe he was spirited away, like he was so obsessed with the supernatural that it finally consumed him.
Like a cautionary tale.
Exactly. But then again, there's that story about an old farmer who claims he saw Ichabod years later living in another state.
Wait, really?
Yeah, so maybe he just couldn't face the humiliation, started a new life somewhere else.
I guess that makes sense.
And you have to remember, Brom Bones marries Katrina pretty soon after Ichabod disappears.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
And Brom always had this knowing laugh whenever anyone brought up the story.
Like he knew something we didn't.
Right. Makes you wonder if he had a hand in Ichabod's disappearance.
Ooh, that's a good theory.
Maybe he used Ichabod's fear against him,
Like a prank gone wrong.
It's possible, and I think that's what makes the story so fascinating. We're never really sure what happened to Ichabod.
It's a mystery.
It is, and it becomes part of the legend of Sleepy Hollow, The story changes with each retelling.
So it's not just about Ichabod anymore. It's about the whole town and its history.
Exactly. It's about our fascination with the unknown, with those things that go bump in the night.
And maybe a little bit about those anxieties we were talking about earlier, the ones that haunt us all.
Absolutely, and I think that's why this story has resonated with people for so long, It taps into something primal, something universal.
The Headless Horseman is like a symbol for all the fears we can't quite name.
I think you're right, but the story also reminds us not to take those fears too seriously.
How so?
Well, think about Ichabod. He's kind of a funny character, isn't he? A little clumsy, easily spooked.
Yeah, and the whole pumpkin incident, that's pretty funny.
It is, and there's a bit of mischief in the story too, Especially with Brom Bones.
It's like Irving is telling us to laugh at our fears a little bit.
Exactly. To find the humor in the darkness.
So it's a ghost story, but it's also a story about human nature, about our hopes and fears and everything in between.
I couldn't have said it better myself, and that's the magic of the legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Well said. I think we've really unpacked this story, haven't we?
I think so, and, as you go about your day today, maybe keep an eye out for those shadows, those whispers of the unknown.
I will. And remember, sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we create in our own minds.
True words.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Sleepy Hollow. It's been a real treat.
It has. Thanks for having me.